everybody. This is Ronnie from Everything Vive. I wanted to welcome you to another episode. As you can tell, Zane is not hosting the podcast today, but I have the pleasure of being here with Damon. Damon, how's it going?
It's going really good. How you doing?
Pretty good. Yeah, I can't complain. It's finally starting to warm up a little bit here in Chicago. So it's been like an up and down kind of couple weeks, and I know it's late April, but today it's like in the 50s, which I know for you is going to be. It doesn't sound that great, but
we'll keep we'll keep the weather down here off the table.
but
It's
yeah,
always a sore subject.
Yep. So yeah, you're over in Florida for listeners out there to know. So like yeah, there's you have it pretty good over there, I'd say.
That's good. That's good.
All right, so today's episode, we wanted to cover a couple of quick news items. One is pretty quick. The other one's going to be a little bit longer, and then get into a little bit of game talk. So first news item for today is going to be the Vive Pro's AR kit announcement. And basically, I mean, there isn't a whole lot of information out there yet, as far as I know, but basically, there was an announcement made that the two cameras on the Vive Pro have now been officially unlocked, both of them, for this AR dev kit. And there was actually like a little video that was released by a developer that's putting together a project in conjunction with HTC. It's Project Ghost Studios is the name of the company. They put out a little video showing like kind of whack-a-mole stuff using the Vive Pro's sensors to read the environment and whatnot. What's your take on this, Damon? Because I know we had talked a little bit about what some of the lenses, off the air, you and I had talked a little bit about what the lenses might possibly be used for, the cameras, and it looks like AR is the thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, AR is a very hot topic right now. Apple has its AR kit. AR is getting a lot of the press and a lot of the attention. Kind of go back 2 years with VR, AR is kind of the hot word and the hot topic, but it's a lot more accessible. I mean, you can, as long as it has a camera on it and a display of some kind, you can kind of work out, something in AR that's relative. Oh, Pokemon Go, kind of that thing everybody associates with. So there's some relativity and yeah, you can say, oh, well, you know that. I feel like with HTC and the cameras, it was kind of like the don't want to be left out on this hot trend. Mm-hmm. And obviously, I'm sure there's developers that they talk to, because this whole headset, the Pro, is supposed to be about, we went out to our professional customers and said, what do you want? Mm-hmm. Well, they put two cameras on the front. And I remember when we had our conversation with Daniel back last year, he said, the Vive Pre had two cameras and we couldn't get it working right. And we kind of just scrapped it because it just wasn't working. Well, they kind of revisited that and they had good reason. They said, well, let's try it. Let's change it up a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I think kind of like a lot of companies out there, they're kind of just leaving it out to developers. And I know in kind of lip service, they're going to kind of support it and do stuff and be supportive of it. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, they're kind of just leaving it to developers to say, hey, have fun with it. Here's you guys take it and run with it. So.
Yeah, that was kind of my take too. Because I mean, it's kind of a neat video, the Project Ghost Studios one, but it's not like anything too mind blowing. I mean, it's one of those things where, like, how much are you going to really want to interact with the environment around you with these games? Like, I think there's a fairly limited amount of stuff that you can do as far as games are concerned. As far as non-game applications, I think that's where AR gets quite a bit more interesting. But I'm just not 100% sure myself yet if VR is the correct application for that. I mean, how often do you want to be in like a closed headset, with camera vision and then, seeing your environment, rather than something that's, a bit more transparent, something more like the HoloLens or something where you're actually seeing the real environment and the computer graphics, the AR implementation is kind of, being shown over that. Like I personally would think that would work but then again, I haven't had a chance to try this either. So it'll be interesting to see, I think, what people end up doing with it. And like you were saying, I mean, this is just kind of another tool in the tool set that people are going to be able to play around with when they're making games for the Vive, and that's never a bad thing. So.
Well, and I think they play in the math game. Like they're of the mindset that they could never think up all the different permutations and of ideas for what could we do with this. So we're just going to leave it up to everybody. If they come up with something amazing, we reap the rewards. If they don't, then you can just shrug your shoulders. It's not like they failed. They released a tool out. It didn't catch on, or it did. It's kind of, there's only upside, and then the parts themselves are not terribly expensive for those two cameras, and there you go.
Yep. No, so, I totally agree with you. So all right.
It makes the $800 worthwhile.
Yep, just another feature that they can tote.
No. I don't want that to be the takeaway.
All right. Well, yeah. You can go with what we've been saying before. This is just a neat thing that we'll have to follow up on and see what people actually end up doing with it. And I'm sure if developers are able to do cool stuff that people would like to do in the house, that we might potentially see stuff like this on the next, more consumer-focused home iteration of the Vive, like a Vive 2. But I mean, we'll have to wait and see, I guess.
I think they said, how can we make someone look even stranger with a VR headset on? I look more like an alien. And they said, well, if it had two weird shaped, like eye-looking cameras on the front, that'd look pretty weird. So
hey, that's what I feel like more and more of the Microsoft mixed AR headsets all have the dual cam. So like this is also them trying to blend in, right? Like
total me too. Total like, oh well, we have it too. So yeah.
All right. Well, moving on, and this is really the big news for the week that we wanted to try to get out there is Valve just recently sent out an email like the day of saying that, hey, VR spring sale, it's on. And it's a short, just weekend VR spring sale in Steam. It ends on Monday, April 23rd. So depending on when you're listening to this, it was basically from Thursday until the following Monday. And there's tons. I mean, the way the announcement kind of read was, games are up to 90% off. It looks like most of them are like 30 to 50% off or so, with some that are
80. 80 is
even
what
more.
I think the max is what I was seeing. I was seeing 80 was about as high as it was going, which is nothing to scoff at.
Oh no, like and we're gonna go over. I mean, that's why we wanted to dedicate quite a bit of time to this because both of us we went through a lot of the games that were on sale and kind of picked the cream of the crop, so to speak, ones that stood out to us as ones that people should probably consider if they don't already have in their library. So it's quite a big list. So we're gonna try to go through these pretty quickly. But yeah, if you're at all interested in the sale and you have money to spend this weekend, you might want to just go through and check out these games that we're about to mention. So,
and before we start, I wanted to mention two things. One, what's amazing about it is, as I understand it, this is the first time that Valve and Steam have ever had a VR that I can remember. Mm-hmm. Now you may correct me, or the internet may correct me, but it's the first time that they've said, here's a VR sale with VR supported games.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Which I think is a big deal because, we are such a minority of Steam owners. It's, what is it, like 0.5%, or it's very, very low, 0.3% or something like that, of the millions and millions of Steam owners out there. So to have a VR only sale, that I feel is a big deal. And when you look in the news feeds from the GameSpots and the mainstream gaming, they did small news blurbs about it because it's a Steam sale. So it's a news item. And I saw many, a dozen or so, maybe not on the front page of Kotaku or I say that, I always mess that up, but it's still a mainstream kind of news item, which is a big deal. 2 years ago, every game could have been 99% off for VR, and no one, no main gaming site would have said a word other than VR is dead. That would have been the only. That would have been the only story.
Well, in addition to that, I mean, just going through the list that we put together. I mean, one thing that I noticed from this list is that it's been a good couple years now since the Vive's been out, and there really is a substantial catalog of high quality titles that are out there. So, like, I'm trying to remember if there may have been a small sale at one point, but yeah, I don't remember it ever being like a big thing like this. I mean, you open Steam and right away there's a huge banner VR spring sale, and and like you said, it gets people's attention. Like it reminds everybody that and when you go and look at these titles, like I said, as we're about to go through, I mean, it tells me that this is like it's a great time to jump on if you haven't already and pick up a bunch of quality titles. The other thing it tells me is that, at least in my opinion, I think there's quite a number of big games that are going to be coming out in May and in the months ahead. And this is a way for I think people to for these developers to kind of get their share of the attention before a lot of these newer games come out. Like a lot of the games on this list, I feel like these are games from teams that are in active development on new titles. And so it's almost like, hey, this is season 1 of VR, so to speak. And season 2 is on its way, right? Like the next big batch of awesome games are coming in the months ahead. So it was kind of cool in that. It's kind of cool in that way to me because especially coming from GDC and seeing a lot of the stuff that's on the horizon, it's like, hey, like this is a great chance to kind of get caught up with games you may not have tried before a lot of the newer stuff is going to be released.
So, and then the other thing I wanted, we have a Vive sale the new price for the Vive. So is quite an influx of new people. I see that post online a lot on Reddit, other places that is, hey, I just got my Vive. What seemed like before Christmas, I never saw that. I stopped seeing that post. Pretty much everybody just saying, oh, we're going to wait for this announcement of the new headset, and nobody was doing anything. The Pro comes out, and then everybody that has $400 or $500 in their pocket says, well, I want to get VR. I don't want to get the Pro. So it's all influx of that. So there's a lot of people out there that have very little in their library because they've only had it for a short amount of time, and they are looking towards it. And my thing was, well, one, I don't want to really talk about. There's if you take Steam and organize by the user reviews, that first page, a lot of them in there. I don't know if Space Pirate Trainer's on your list. Is it, Ronnie?
It is.
Okay. Well, there's some games they've been out since almost the beginning. They are the quintessential games to own. There's no two ways about it. Space Pirate Trainer. It doesn't really. It's such a great game. It's such a game that you would use, and I use it in demos all the time. I play it a lot. Yep. It's so polished. It's so well put together. So those types of games they're great. It's never a bad idea. And the other thing I wanted to say, every game on my list, it has a discount, but if you were to buy it full price, you still feel like you're cheating because you're getting your money's worth on everyone. So that was my other thing about the list. I wanted things that even if you missed the discount and in a couple of weeks you go, you know what, I really want to play it, it's worth it. You're supporting a dev that
I agree.
Really knocked it out of the park.
And looking at my list, maybe there's a couple of exceptions to that, but I kind of put them near the bottom where, hey, maybe check this out since it happens to be on sale. But I agree with you, actually. Like looking at the list of games you picked and the games that I picked, I mean, these are all like no-brainer games that I think everyone should really have in their library, and now that they're on sale, it's just kind of icing on the cake. If you have the money to spend, and depending on your tastes, these are the games to check out. And really, I think it's just like, I mean, if you were to add all these together, it's still kind of pricey. So that's why I say depending on your tastes. I mean, really, if you're able to pick all these games up, like I think you'll have a ton of awesome content to play. So
you'll be good to go. How do you want to do it? You do a game, I do a game, and then a quick blurb? And
let's just go, because I think the easiest way is I just kind of I stuck your list kind of near the top of my list. I'll go one from your list, one from my list, and just go back and forth until they're all gone. So does that?
Oh, let's go.
All right. So the first game you added on your list was Operation Warcade VR. And you said it's 50% off right now. So that's, I mean, if you're looking for this game, 50% off is great. It's only $9.99, so $10. and I guess there's an iOS version that's also $3 that you had mentioned here. But yeah, what do you want to say real quick about Operation Warcade VR?
I think of all the games that are inspired and have anything to do with the arcade or old school gaming, because this kind of really came from the if you remember Operation Wolf from the early Nintendo or from the arcades, it has like a machine gun on the very front of it. If you remember that from the back in the day, this is very much inspired straight from that. The implementation on it is fantastic. The quality of it's great. It just nails it perfectly. You are literally standing in front of an arcade machine, kind of a modern looking arcade machine with like a flat monitor, but it has the gun there. It uses motion controls. And for part of the game, it's like you're actually holding the gun and you're shooting and you're playing the arcade game, just like you would if you were in an arcade game. And then for sections of it, it will literally transport you inside the arcade game. And if there's a section where you're driving a truck and you're shooting out the window, it's as if, your left hand you're driving the wheel, your right hand you're shooting your gun, throwing grenades. It's such a cool kind of implementation of it. It's worth every penny. I think normally, like I said, it's 50% off, $10. It is an instant buy. It's a really, really good game to get if you have any kind of memories of the original arcade game, and they did a couple different versions, but if you remember Operation Wolf in the arcade and you were a fan of it, or you just like shooters in general, and anything arcade that you can jump in, play for 5-10 minutes and come out, this is a great purchase to make. And then, like I said, there's an iOS version, which is a really cool AR enabled, where you hold your phone up and then in front of you is an arcade cabinet, the kind of a similar, same looking kind of cabinet that for sections of the game, you'll actually move your whole body forward to go inside the game and play it, and then walk yourself out and play it as well. So it's just kind of cool. And I really like this dev. It's somebody I've talked to for a while, and I'm trying to get him on the show, but yeah, it's just money well spent.
Okay, awesome. Well, yeah, I haven't had a chance to check it out yet, but that's a high recommendation. Sounds awesome. So, next game on my list, it's, I guess, the first one, and this is in no particular order, I want to stress that, is Duck Season. And Duck Season is an awesome game, that came out a little bit ago, but it's super polished, has a great aesthetic to it. It's from the same guys that brought you Hover Junkers, so they know a thing or two about good VR. And it's kind of funny that it kind of reminds me of the game you just picked, in that, it's kind of an old school, shooter type game where the game starts you out in a living room in the 80s, basically starting up, your kind of old generic Nintendo to play a game of what's kind of like Duck Hunt. And then all of a sudden you're in the game and you're playing it with all kinds of different like loading mechanics and different guns, and it's just a cool game. And all around you just see little touches here and there that just really makes you feel like you're in a different place, in a different environment. The style's great, and yeah, I can't recommend it enough. It's 25% off, so not a ton, but it's about $15, $14.99. So definitely a game that I think is worth checking out.
And you're right. You hit the nail on the head. It does have a pretty great level of polish and production value, and it does have a little bit of a darker sense of humor, but not in a bad way, in a very good way. It's kind of its sense of humor is actually pretty dang good.
Yeah.
And I like it. I enjoyed it. I haven't spent as much time in it as I would like to, but I really did like it, and the mechanics on the guns are just, I think, just perfect. Not too complicated, not too easy. It's a good balance.
Yep. I totally agree. So then next on your list is Pierhead Arcade. And this is a game I recommend it as well. I had a chance to play this game quite a bit too. It's 50% off right now, and it's only $5, $4.99. And you had mentioned that it's a good kids game. So I didn't know if there was anything you wanted to say.
If you have kids, it's kind of a no-brainer. My oldest daughter, who's 7, plays it quite a bit. It has all all the games that you would find in a modern arcade. I think it even has a bowling alley, skee ball, basketball shoot. Even some of the newer stuff. There's games where like there's a bunch of buttons that's all over the place that light up, and you have to hit them, and it's a very physical, active VR game for kids. And what's great, I think, about it is it has tons of performance options. So there's lots of different options for different kinds of powerful or less powerful computers. So you can run it in a very low, if you have a computer that's maybe minimum spec, plus scaling options. You can scale the entire world down, in degrees of like 1 degree for depending upon, how old or young
which is important because
it's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean that right there is just like such a smart inclusion because when you're in VR, you obviously can only hit buttons and interact with things that you can reach. And so the fact that they included that kind of tells you that they understood that there might be players that might not be able to reach so high, and so there's a way to make it so that everything's accessible to everyone.
It's really well done, and all the games are kind of a more mechanical games and things like that, but they're totally inspired and taken from the stuff you would see if you go to a regular kids arcade
And what's cool about that is like all of the games, the physics all work really properly, and like it's just fun. Like it's a type of experience where you can just let a kid, like, once, I'd say, if they know how to teleport around or kind of move within the environment. Besides that, every single game and experience is self-explanatory. Like kids can just mess around with it and figure it out on their own.
It's a lot like Job Simulator. Like all the kids that come over to my house for parties and stuff, Job Simulator, I show them how to maybe push a couple buttons and tell them about the wall, their chaperone, and that's it. And then they just play. This is the same kind of thing. Like, they don't need any instructions. Okay, awesome. Next.
All right, so next game, and I'm not even going to get into this too much because we already touched on it so much, but Space Pirate Trainer is my next one, and it's 40% off, so it's only $8.99, $9. If you don't own Space Pirate Trainer, like,
what is wrong with you?
Yeah, you should just pick it up.
What is wrong with you?
You have to have this game if you have a Vive or if you have a VR headset in general that supports it. And really, the best thing I can say about it is it's a simple, you're shooting down drones with various weapons. You can pull out a shield, you can have like a laser whip kind of thing. The thing that's special about this game that kind of separates it from the crowd is just how great everything feels. Like, everything just feels perfect. And that's why this game is a must own.
It's the wave shooter that all wave shooters wished they were. It's the original wave shooter. It's what everything else is trying to be.
Yep.
So,
all right. So next, and this game, I'm kind of jealous that you put this on your list and I didn't put it on mine. It's Form. Form's 50% off. It's only $7.49. And you said this is an insta buy, and I agree. It's an amazing game. So do you want to talk just briefly about it?
Well, we've talked a lot with the developers. I talk to them every once in a while. I'll ping them and ask them about stuff. I'm still trying to ask them about getting a demo mode, which I think they're interested in doing, where you flip a switch, when you do a demo, and it'll skip the whole intro and go straight to where you get sucked into the vortex. But as far as games go, as far as puzzle games, and something that if someone came over to your house and you were going to do a demo and they were a big puzzle person or liked puzzle games, this is really what you would want to put them in after doing the lab or something like that. Also to note, for $1 more or $1.50 more, you get like the deluxe version with the soundtrack and some other freebies and stuff in there. So great game, fantastic devs. Charm Games is the company.
They know their VR, and they really from the ground up, everything that they work on is VR only, and it really shows. They really know what works and what doesn't work in this medium, and they're always improving.
Cool. It's one of those cool wow games. Like, you're like, oh wow, this is. Yeah. I don't know. I'd had VR for I think almost a year or something when I played it the first time, and it was just, I was impressed. It was very cool.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. It's the wow moments in that game are something. Just the way it looks, the way it feels, everything about it.
And it's not terribly hard, and it's not incredibly easy, but it's not like it's going to take you months to figure out the stuff. You'll get through the puzzles, and some people go extremely fast, and some people take a little longer. But it's a good journey.
All right, so now moving on to my list, and this is kind of cheating because I haven't actually played much of either of these games, but I know I really plan on doing that soon, and I know that these are must-haves that I have to recommend. And these are the both of the gallery episodes, the two gallery games. So Call of the Starseed and Heart of the Emberstone. They're 50% off right now, so it's only $25 to get both of these games, and they're both fairly like substantial experiences, several hours each, and they're just really like from the bit I've played. Zane played through all of Call of the first episode and just absolutely loved it. And he's been kind of trying to scratch that itch ever since he played it. I mean, it's essentially it's like a like an adventure puzzle type game in VR, and they kind of just hit it out of the park from the very beginning. The first episode came out with the Vive, and
the pack-in. That was I got it the same way.
Yeah, see,
I think the whole first year, like it was a pack-in game.
Yeah, I think it wasn't initially because I didn't get it as a pack-in. I don't think.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But I think once the first time they changed the pack-in games,
That was what was it.
I think that was the first game that they're like, okay, this is a title worthy of making as a pack-in game. So yeah, so I mean, I wanted to recommend it because it's 50% off. So I mean, rather than paying $50, you're paying $25 for two games that are, we're talking like probably well in excess of 10 hours plus. I would think. For both episodes, right? Like
like 3 or 4 for the first one and 3, I think, for the second one.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
If you were to speed run it or go through it pretty fast, sure. 6 or 7 hours. And I take my time because I like to enjoy the games. So
yeah. So that's definitely both of those games. If you're into that sort of thing, definitely recommend it. So then next on your list, Vertigo. It's 80% off, so it's only $2.99.
Yeah, I mean it's what, half a cup of Starbucks.
Yeah,
basically. So I think really you don't have to really think. It has kind of a Half-Life feel to it. It's but a little bit more otherworldly kind of thing going on. But it's just a very well done game. It's an independent. I haven't really talked. I may have talked to the developer a long time ago and kind of did a little bit back and forth, but he's a very involved developer, and I think he's the kind of guy that we really want to see more from. But for $3, I mean, it is an insta buy.
Yep. No, you can't get much for $3 these days. So
no,
that's definitely one to pick up. So then the next game on my list is Arizona Sunshine, and that game, It's a great game. It's 45% off, so it's only $21.99. If in case you're not familiar with Arizona Sunshine, it's a first-person shooter in a post-apocalyptic world where you're basically shooting a bunch of zombies. And really, in my opinion, the best way to play this game is co-op with a friend. And it's not like a wave shooter. You're moving around in the environments, finding weapons and finding your way out of this mess, shooting. Like one of the cool things about Arizona Sunshine that I still don't think any other game in VR has done nearly as well is just the amount of the dismemberment and kind of reactions that you get when you hit and shoot at the zombies, I think is really well done, and it's something that translates great in VR. And I had gotten a chance to speak with the developer of Arizona Sunshine when I was at GDC, and they're in the process of working on a DLC pack that's going to be released pretty soon, or it's a mission. It's like a prequel mission called Dead Man. And that game, like the bit that I played from it, the pacing was a little bit different than the original game. It's super fun. It definitely seemed like a game that would be amazing with co-op. And then another thing that's kind of cool about Arizona Sunshine, something that I've noticed, is that the developers seems to really be Vertigo Games as a developer. They seem to really be focused on working with a lot of the different types of peripherals out there. So they have a lot of different types of like gun peripheral support. They're supporting a lot of the different I don't know, different types of tracking systems out there, and they just seem to really be interested in making as good of an experience as possible. So, I mean, considering it would normally be a kind of pricey VR game at around $40+. So if you're able to get it now for closer to 20, I think it's a game. If zombie shooting is something you're interested in, you might want to pick it up while it's on sale.
And that DLC, if I remember correctly, is going to be like $5, right?
You know what? You're right. It's not. It's now that I'm
Yeah.
thinking about it.
No, yeah, but the DLC is going to $5 for an entire. I mean, it's not going to be a small add-on. I mean, it's going to be a pretty sizable add-on. So what you're looking at, you're getting the game now, so that when the DLC comes out for $5.
Yeah, it's a good point.
That's a great. This is. I mean, it's a fantastic game. It's so well done. It does have that horde mode that you can do co-op if you want, or single player, which is fantastic.
Yep.
The gameplay itself it's creepy. Like when you're in the mines and you have a flashlight in one hand and you're shooting and you hear those noises. I mean, it is an intense experience.
No, it's a really cool game.
So I think just for the fact that yes, there's more coming out, that it's already finished, it's from them, and it's going to cost a whole $5. This is definitely one to get.
All right, so next on your list is Merry Snowballs, and I don't think I've ever heard of Merry Snowballs actually. So I'm kind of interested to hear about it from you. It's you say it's 34% off, which is interesting. It's $3.90.
Kind of weird.
Yeah, it's only $3.95. So I mean, it seems like kind of one of those games. If you're recommending it, it's probably easy for anyone to pick up.
It's for kids. I mean, really, if you have kids, it's a game. And they literally, I'll tell you how great the dev is. I messaged him, I think either over the Steam community forums or on Discord or something. I can't remember. But I just said, hey, love the game. My daughter loves it. It is a little hard for her. She's 7, and it's a little hard for her to see over the fence and do stuff. I think within 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, he was like, yeah. So we put in a small person mode.
Whoa, that's so cool.
Within like 2 or 3 weeks.
That's amazing.
And that turned it into a whole new game for my daughter. So then it went from playing it for 5 or 10 minutes or 20 minutes to playing it for 30 minutes. So it's literally it's snowballs and hitting other kids with snowballs that are across the street, and then a van comes along and you hit that. But it's good kids fun, and I can't recommend it enough. If you got kids, $4.
All right, I will have to check it out. All right, so next on my list is a game that I would say most VR people are going to be familiar with. If you're just getting a VR headset now or a Vive and you haven't heard about this title, this is definitely a really cool one. It's Tilt Brush, and it's a game. It's not really a game. It's more of like an application made by Google. It's 50% off right now, so it's only $9.99. I initially got Tilt Brush as a pack-in with the Vive.
Me too.
Yeah, and Tilt Brush is just one of those games where, like, I can't imagine having my VR headset and not having Tilt Brush just to kind of dazzle people when they first realize that they stuck on this headset and they're actually in a completely interactive 3D space. Because
it's worth. I'm sorry, no.
No, go ahead.
For $10 when you do demos, that moment you get to see when someone draws something in Tilt Brush, and then they start moving their head around and realize, wait a minute. And I know it sounds really simple and really silly, but when someone draws something in front of them and then it snaps for them, or it just clicks, and they realize, I could just move around, and now it's in 3D, and now I can draw in 3D.
Yeah.
I've seen so many people that come over my house that are like, they're drawing something, and it's like they're drawing on a flat surface, and and then they realize, oh, wait a minute, I can do everything,
and their mind just blown.
Around. Yeah, and then next thing you know, they're all the way around my play space, and they're painting every corner and stuff.
And again, it's 100%. You see people's brains kind of explode in terms of, like, a lot of the people I've showed it to, you kind of work your audience, right? So the kind of games that certain people are going to be interested versus others. Tilt Brush, I'd say, for maybe like a VR skeptic or someone that isn't super into games but wants to learn more about what the potentials are in the medium. you show them a game like Tilt Brush, and like you said, when they realize the potential of being able to use 3D space and be able to create in that space, instantly I think they get it. They get that there's something that you're able to do in VR that you can't do in anything else. And I mean, yeah, and I think we've been kind of talking around the point, but I mean, Tilt Brush is essentially like Microsoft Paint or like a paint application in VR. So you have a bunch of tools that you're able to use, and you can just draw in the air, and
it's
all
very
just
intuitive.
works.
The
Yeah.
interface is very intuitive. Like people start using it, and after they just kind of figure it out. It's another one of those very well designed interfaces where as they use it, they'll maybe ask one or two questions. Oh, how do I switch? Oh, you just swipe your finger, and then boom, you're done.
Yep.
They've already know how to use it, and it's from Google. And if you ever want to play virtual reality Pictionary, like you see on the Tonight Show, you have to have Tilt Brush.
Very cool.
Which I so want to play, but I haven't got around to it.
I agree. All right, so yeah, I could talk about that one for a while, but and actually like legit like VR art that people have created in Tilt Brush. But anyways, all right, moving on. All right, this is a big one for you, and it's a big one that I think anyone interested in these types of games should definitely be on the lookout for. It is Onward. It's 40% off right now, so you could pick up Onward for $14.99. And you didn't just say that this was an Insta-buy. You said that this was an Insta-buy times 10.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw a thread the other day where someone was kind of complaining about Onward, and they were talking about, it's been a year and it hasn't really had a lot of updates. And my response to someone is games usually take 3 to 4 to 5 years, and they go through whole. I know I've talked or read a lot of accounts of game testers where they say, I do the same couple of levels for 6 months, and I over and over and over again the same thing over and over until they get it perfectly done. And Onward, it's very rare that it goes on sale. I think the first year from when it came out, it never went on sale. So it's a rare thing for it to go on sale. It's worth every penny if you buy it not on sale. The game itself if you're not familiar with it, it is a military simulation game in VR. It's competitive. You can play groups of up to 5 versus 5. There's not a ton of maps, and the game itself it's not up to par with current first-person shooter games as far as graphically, but it's enough. It's enough to get the sensation of where you're at and what you're doing.
And I think I think if you're going to Onward for the graphics, like you're kind of like not getting the point, right?
Yeah, get that out of your mindset. It's more about the mechanics of the weapons, and once you first start using the game and you start loading your weapons, and the terror, the first time you're in a match and you're new and you went to the range and there's a gun range in it, and you're loading your weapons and you're learning how to load the various weapons and shooting and basically getting to where you can use the game, because it does have a little bit of a learning curve, but it's worth it. So stick it out. The community itself, in my opinion, the online multiplayer community, it is probably one of the most, if not the most, helpful and populous communities. There's people all over the world that play it. So depending upon what time of day you get in, you'll hear Russians, you'll hear French people, you'll hear Chinese, you'll hear people from all over the world playing the game. So there's always packed rooms full of people playing. You can play against the computer and turn the skill level down and play against bots. So that's a good way to get your practice in what's called operations levels. Or you can play against other people. And there are people who've been playing this since the day it came out every day. There's lots of, there's gun stocks that you can buy to help with your game. This is the reason why a lot of people buy very high-end computers, so they can super sample as high as possible, so they can see objects as far away as possible. So
I would imagine the Vive Pro would be nice for Onward.
I almost think it's possibly going to be something that's a disadvantage for people that don't have it, because they're going to be able to see you from farther away. But it is what it is. Yep. I think the game is fantastic. It's, as far as a multiplayer game and as far as something that can once the teamwork is going and you have a group of people in the room that are cohesive and everyone's working together. And it's unlike anything I've ever played in a multiplayer game in my life. And it's a lot of fun. And you, it's just worth every penny. I would highly, highly recommend it. Now there's a constant disagreement on another game like Pavlov better, or Standout, which is a battle royale type.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's quite a few shooters that are out there, but each has its own pluses and minuses. But Onward, as far as a military,
Realism, maybe. Yeah.
well, realism, and it's not 100%. I mean, if you get hit, you pull out a syringe and you can heal yourself or heal your teammates.
Sure.
So it's not, it's not insta death. It's not one shot. There is one shot kills sometimes, but it has good balance. It has a good set of weapons. The main dev and the people that help him are very committed to it. And it's a smaller team, but it's worth it. And it's really, really a good thing to get in. And they have a new update that's coming out soon. So it's a really a good idea to do. Okay. So I can't say enough about it.
Yeah, Onward's one of those games that I haven't had enough time to kind of get deep into, but like you actually, gave me a copy of the game, and like I can't wait to get into it. Like it's one of those games that for me it's a little intimidating, but I know that it would be totally worth it to learn and play. So
that first time that there's bullets whizzing by your head and you drop down to the ground and you're fumbling to get a grenade or a flashbang or a smoke grenade, and people are yelling at each other, and that moment is what does it.
All right. So moving on to a couple of games on my list, and goes without saying, I'd say Onward is like the highest recommendation from Damon that you can get. So
yeah.
All right. The games that and this is kind of doing them a little bit of an injustice, but for the sake of time, I'm gonna lump these two together because they're from the same developer. These are both amazing games, kind of legendary, I'd say, in the VR world. Raw Data and Sprint Vector. They're two games that were released by Survios. And if you're not familiar with Survios and their work, I mean, I'd say just about everything that they've kind of touched or put their hands on in VR has been just gold. Like as far as they really know what they strive to make experiences for VR that are better than, that set the standard really. And all of their games, as far as I know, they usually set out with a goal in mind as far as like what is a mechanic that we can solve for VR, quote unquote solve. Like something that hasn't really been done, or something that hasn't been done to our satisfaction. And then they go and set out to try to figure out how to do those types of games in VR, and then kind of build from there. And so Raw Data was the first game that they released in VR, my understanding. And there was so much fanfare before that game came out and afterwards. And it was essentially, it's essentially a shooter. It's not entirely a wave shooter. It kind of is, in that, obviously there are waves coming at you, but especially for its time, it was innovative because it let you actually move around in an arena or an environment rather than just, staying put in one place. It was one of the first games that really, experimented with locomotion in the way that the way that you see a lot of games today doing more and more, right? And they did their type of locomotion in a way that I think was, really aimed to make players not be sick, but at the same time have a great degree of control and flexibility, and they really pulled that off, I thought. And all of the weapons, you can have swords, you can have different kinds of guns, and you're fighting all kinds of robots, and it's just a really great game. And it's also one of the first games that really, before the likes of Arizona Sunshine and other games that are out there, it had a really strong, co-op component to it. So you're able to play with friends online, and you're able to kind of be in lobbies and that sort of thing. And yeah, just it also pushed the envelope in terms of production values. It's an Unreal Engine game, I believe, and it has a lot of different kinds of settings, and was one of the first games to kind of pioneer. So, as far as a game that I'd say did a lot of created a foundation for a lot of VR mechanics that you know and love in all kinds of other titles. It's a game that's kind of a foundational VR game in a way. And so I'd recommend picking it up. It's 30% off, so it's $27.99. It's still a little pricey, but at the same time, there's a lot of value there, I think. So it's at least definitely worth checking out if you haven't played it yet. And I mean, go and read reviews and see some gameplay videos. And,
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure you'll be convinced that if you haven't,
it's pretty
played raw
overwhelming.
Data,
It's one of those overwhelming, like it's the rarity of hearing someone that didn't like it. So
exactly. So and then Sprint Vector's completely different, but in some way, at least for me, it's actually like more of a must-have title than Raw Data, even for me personally. And that's just because it's quite a bit like whereas Raw Data, I feel like does a lot of things that other games do, but it does them right. Sprint Vector kind of does something that I don't really think many games in VR even attempts, and that's like kind of a physical based locomotion system. It's essentially like the best way to describe it is like an SSX or like a Mario Kart in VR, in the sense that you basically use your hands, the Vive controllers, to move back and forth, and that propels you through the environment, and you're able to
by swinging, and you're
yeah.
swinging from left to right.
It's almost like skiing.
So it's very physical.
Yeah. Cross country skiing is, I think, almost like the way that, and it's, but there's a lot of nuance to the controls, so it's a game that you can you can pick up pretty quickly. So for people that have never tried VR, I mean, I wouldn't probably start them out in a game like Sprint Vector, but like maybe after like playing a few other titles, maybe second or third time trying a Vive headset, you put them in Sprint Vector, and I think their minds are going to be blown just in terms of, oh, I didn't realize games could be this expansive and this feature rich at this point in the game. Like it's in general, the Survios games I think feel like that. They're games that offer you an entire package, where I think still a lot of VR games are only specific like short experiences. Survios games aren't like that. They're full-blown productions, and Sprint Vector is just a ton of fun and something like I think if you're into racing games particularly, there isn't a racing game that is a VR racing game in a sense that even compares to Sprint Vector. So, and this is it's 30% off, so it's $20.99. So I think it's definitely worth picking up if you don't have
well worth it. Well worth it.
All right, so then the next game, and this we both recommended this one, and this is actually the last on your list, and then I can just quickly go through the ones that are left on mine. Actually, there's two. There's technically two, because these are both games that you and I included on our list. So I can go through these first. So the first one, and this is more than just a game. I mean, it's a bundle, like it says. This is the Serious Sam VR bundle, and it's a whopping 70% off right now. So it's still pricey. It's $47.96. I mean, pricey. It depends on like what you're comparing it to. I mean, as far as it's not even an entire like AAA game price. It's below $60.
Yeah,
so.
if a Lamborghini was $25,000, you'd be like, "Ooh, $25,000 is a lot of money." Well, no, it's a Lamborghini, and it's $25,000. Buy it.
How many hours do you think of gameplay are you able to get out of the Serious Sam VR bundle? Would you say?
I would say we're talking the Serious Sam bundle or the Crow Team bundle that has Talos Principle in it.
I wrote it down as the Serious Sam bundle.
There's two,
but you're right, and
there's
I would,
two.
and why not get the Crow Team? Because
$3, yeah.
I would you should totally get the Crow Team bundle, because it does the Crow Team bundle. So yeah, Crow Team are the developers behind the Serious Sam franchise. They brought those Serious Sam games to VR in an amazing way. I mean, unparalleled, I think, to any when most people talk about porting non-VR titles to VR, I think there's like kind of a negative attachment to that. And for the most part, I don't often like ports, but the Serious Sam games and just the games in general that Crow Team have brought to VR are exceptionally well done. Like they're great, and that's coming from a person that can get sick in VR, isn't super like enthusiastic about playing games that weren't designed from the ground up for VR. But every time that I've jumped into a co-op match with one of you guys or played it on my own, I've just had a ton of fun.
They're very good, and going through from Series Sam 1 to 2 to 3, and then there's the made for VR. Was it The Last Hope?
Yeah.
Which is a wave shooter, but it's very, very well done, and the graphics are very good, and it's very fun, and it's a stand and place wave shooter, but it's fantastic.
The way I would say the Serious Sam graphics are good in a sense that they're like clean and detailed to the point where like it's not a super like a hyper realistic type of look that they're going for.
No.
It's like an arcady. Like if you're not familiar with Serious Sam, it's almost like it's like someone took the ideas behind Doom, like the gameplay, the kind of crazy frenetic, enemies just running at you from all sides, and really like bared it down to its essence and made a game that just like just celebrates the simplicity of old shooters. And
explosions, blowing stuff up, smash TV.
Yep, smash TVs are great.
Shoot everything everywhere. Frenetic, frantic explosions and blow up, and every 90s action hero kind of shoot first, ask questions later, kind of like that vibe, that Duke Nukem kind of feel.
Yep.
Everything from that all jammed together with like a Croatian spin, and there you have Serious Sam games, and they translate fantastic. And you play the first one, and it's great. And then I liked the progression. I liked going from the second to the third, and the graphics get a little better, and the gameplay is a little bit richer, and there's more of everything. That was really cool. That's why I liked going from game to game.
Yeah, and while you could just get the Serious Sam VR bundle if you want, and I mean it's really cheap as it is. But you said for only $3 more you can get the Crow Team bundle, and that
$50. $50 you get the Crow Team bundle. It's 75% off the normal price. But yeah, 75% off the normal price. $50, and you get all the Serious Sam games plus the VR, Last Hope, which is the wave shooter, and then Talos Principle.
Yeah, and Talos Principle, I mean, for those that aren't, again, it was a game released on PC and various platforms prior to becoming a VR title, but it's an excellent puzzle game, and it was a game that was receiving all kinds of awards prior to its release in VR, and the Crow Team totally gave it the same VR treatment as they did with the other Serious Sam games. It's a game that works very, very well in VR, and it's totally a game worth checking out. So yeah, I think the Serious Sam VR bundle is a must-buy for anyone that I would say maybe it's not as much of a must-buy for people that aren't into video games, maybe. Like if there are people out there that have a Vive or a VR headset for just like quote unquote like experiences and don't really have a background in playing first person shooters and stuff, it might be a little bit like of a tough sell for them. But for anyone else that like has even a little bit of an interest in video games, I feel like the Crow Team bundle is like a slam dunk as far as getting a lot of great content and getting a chance to see a non-VR game or non-VR games brought to VR in a way that really sets the standard.
I would say if you have $100 and you want to, and you maybe don't have a big library, or you got $100 burn on a hole in your pocket, 50 of it should be like I'm pretty adamant. 50 of it.
Yeah.
You can't get a better deal.
No. Like
this. So if you have $100 to plop down, take half of it. Buy this. Buy Onward. Buy.
Listen to the rest of our episode and kind of
the rest of the episode. Go back in the catalog. If you've just got a Vive now, we've got episodes spanning back, and every person that I would say every dev that we interview is because we liked their game.
Mm-hmm.
and their game was fun. And if you go back and listen to those, that's our that's our endorsement. We talk to the people on the podcast that we like, and we like their stuff, and we want to hear them talk about what they did. So yeah.
All right. So
I think I had one more on my list.
yeah, you
maybe?
did. There's like just a handful extra. So that's
Yeah.
so the next one is technically the last one on your list. It was also on my
Okay.
list. It's 11 table tennis VR, and
It
it's 50% off. So it's
yeah.
$9.99 right now. And this is a game that both Damon and I have. Both Damon and I love. So
There's not a lot to it. I mean, it's not very deep. It's
ping pong. Yeah.
But the feature, the wow factor is the physics on it are incredible.
It feels like you're playing real ping. Like if you're good at ping pong in real life, then you pick this up and you're like, okay, this is behaving the way it should. Like your serve will look like your serve, and you will be able to hit shots back and forth just like you would in real life. And
vice versa. I think if you played this a lot, you could go and play on a real table, and probably it wouldn't be that big of a deal. And to be honest, $10 is a lot cheaper than, I mean, the ping pong table, $1,000, $2,000. Like you can drop some serious coin, and you got to have a lot of space.
Yeah, people laugh about, or people complain about, I guess, like room scale VR taking up a lot of space, but try fitting a ping pong table in a small apartment.
Exactly. So it's I think, it is definitely worth nabbing.
No, I totally agree. As far as a ping pong game is concerned, like they just nailed it. It's perfect, and if you're into ping pong or even remotely interested in a great simulation of ping pong in VR, then pick it up.
It's the kind of thing too where I got it and I started playing it, and I would play it for a couple of minutes here and there and be like, oh, that's great, let me go play something else. But then the next time I picked it up, I would start playing, and I'd be like, okay, one more round, and then I'd be in for 30 minutes, 40 minutes playing back and forth, and a little bit higher on the skill level, because the skill levels are very good. They go up very well from the next to the next as far as the difficulty, and the AI is really good. And I believe there's multiplayer that you can play on it, so it's worth it. $10.
Agreed. All right, so then these last two games, they're on my list. I'll just shoot them through real quick, and then I have two other ones that are kind of in their own category. So my last two that I'd recommend is Audio Shield, which is 50% off, so it's $9.99. Audio Shield is a really fun. It's very simple. So like at $20, I'm not sure that I'd recommend it for everyone necessarily. It's just that's a little pricey. But at $10, I think you're gonna enjoy it. Like
it's a crowd pleaser. I mean, I rarely have stuff. I've never had someone come over and not enjoy it. It's a crowd pleaser.
Yep. And I mean, for what it is, I mean, you have a shield in each hand. One hand is one shield is blue, one shield is red, and it procedurally generates like levels based on music. Yeah. And basically these balls flying at you from the sky, and you block them with your shields at the beat of the music. And you can use, like, when the game first came out, you had to use your own MP3s if you didn't use, stuff that, like, I think it was like maybe SoundCloud, or there was like a couple, but now you can use YouTube. So it's super simple to just, like, you search YouTube within the game's menu, find whatever song you want, and then all of a sudden you're playing a VR game where, and when you block the balls with your shields, they explode in like kind of a liquidy, like satisfying explosion that kind of gets all over everywhere. And it's just a cool thing to see in VR for the first time, like sparks flying and all kinds of stuff. So
the other thing that's nice to note is, for demos and when people come over, it's one of those games that's really easy to demo because it lets you use you can use the computer. Like, I put people in, I keep one headphone up, and then I ask them what kind of music they like, because I'm on the computer, and it lets you type and search in YouTube with the keyboard.
Yep.
And I'm looking up, if they say they like Baby Got Back or whatever, I of course, I can pull it up very quickly and go, all right, hit start.
Yeah. No, and as far as like, I've used it as like at parties and stuff. So like if I have a bunch of people over, rather than using the headphones, I'll just have it playing on my speakers.
Exactly.
And like everybody likes watching it, and they can't wait to try it. And I mean,
it's fun to watch. Yeah.
I would almost say, like, and this next one is like, it's not in the same category. I would say right now, Audio Shield to me, for demo purposes, is kind of a must buy. and especially at $10, I would pick it up. My only hesitation is, like I said, like the higher price point is a little steep, but again, probably worth it considering you'll probably pull it out every time that someone's, starting for the first time, and especially when you have a lot of people over. Like my wife, anyone that loves music is going to love this game. The only reason I would say it's kind of like somewhat falling off my list here is because I know Beat Saber is coming out really soon, and Beat Saber does a lot of what Audio Shield does, but like to an even more amazing level. So that's
which you've played, right?
Yeah, I got a chance to play it.
You played it at GDC.
Yeah, I played it at GDC, and I actually had a friend that had never played a Vive before. Like I had showed him an Oculus DK1, like back when it was brand new, and he had never tried VR since then. And Beat Saber was like the first new age VR title that he played, and he was blown away. Like he was literally, but I mean everyone. I mean it like. At the party that I went to, all of these various VR devs were like couldn't wait to try Beat Saber. It was like a super exciting game. So and he was actually inspired by Audio Shield. So like in a lot of ways. So
that's
like
cool.
Like when I asked him about it, he was like, yeah, like I love Audio Shield. But I wanted to do something a little different, and that's kind of, I think, part of what inspired him to make Beat Saber. So I would recommend people go and pick up Audio Shield for $10, and like I said, when Beat Saber comes out soon, everything that I've played so far, like until I see the final release, I don't want to say anything too much, but it seems like it's going to be amazing. So, and then
I my house, I'm HoloDance. I like HoloDance, and I like all that, and my wife likes Audio Shield. So it's back and forth. Usually most nights I'm playing that, she's playing that, and that's the whole night.
Yeah. No, that's totally. So like music games in general in VR are awesome. So and then in this game it's not the same type of VR or music game like application, but I wanted to mention it cuz it's really cheap. Thumper. Thumper is just a really good music game in general. And
let's get it, and just let it a little caveat. It is a controller game. It is something you run. You use a gamepad. But I would say to people, don't let that deter you from trying it and playing it.
It's very unique.
It's a very unique game. The music on it is really very intense, and the gameplay itself, it's super intense. What is it that they say? It's like a music violence game they call it.
Yeah, like a thrasher.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, it's 60% off right now, like on the sale. So it's only $7.99. So that's why I say
$8. Yeah, $8. Like that's McDonald's value meal.
Yeah,
like,
as long as you have a controller hooked up to your PC, like I think it's a no-brainer. So it's just a cool one. Like for $8, like it's definitely worth checking out. So.
Yeah, and who doesn't have like an Xbox controller or something for their PC? I mean, pretty much everybody. So okay,
so those
that's our list.
That's our list. So VR.
That's the Steam sale, and it ends Monday. I think middle of the day Eastern time or something.
Yeah, something like For anybody listening to this, go and check for yourself just to confirm. Yeah. But I mean, over the weekend for sure, check it out. Buy everything that you can before Monday if possible, just to make sure you don't miss anything. But
I always put everything in my cart over the weekend, and then I forget, and then Monday morning I'm at work and I'm feverishly like throwing stuff out of the cart and putting stuff back in the cart, and then like minutes before it's over, I'll be like, okay, I'm good, and then I'll pull the trigger.
Yep.
Because I want that perfect like $50 cart or $80 cart, so I'm like throwing stuff in and out, and then I need two more games. I need 2 more games for $3 each or whatever. So yeah,
awesome. Well,
but if everyone spends money on this VR sale, maybe Valve will kind of, they're kind of gauging it. They're going to be like, wow, because I strongly believe, I've seen many posts of people online, and I am guilty of it myself. My entire time I had Steam, I didn't buy a whole lot. I was not a huge purchaser of computer games. I get into VR. I mean, I bought some things. I bought Grand Theft 5 and everything else that everyone else bought. But I was not consuming per year, per month, the amount of games. I get VR, and then, I'm 30 times the amount of games that I've ever had since I had a Steam account. I don't think that's an isolated incident. I think people that have they've kind of gotten burnt out just on flat gaming or whatever, or they kind of checked out years ago and they come back and they build themselves a PC. I think Valve will recognize from the stats on this, they're going to see accounts that have been relatively low level spending accounts that all of a sudden they get, they activate their Vive or whatever VR headset or mixed reality or whatever. And then they see this explosion of purchases. And then they see sales, and they see people that have never, for 5 years, have not even bought a game on a sale. And then all of a sudden, a huge influx of purchasing. So,
Hey, that would be awesome.
You know what I mean? I think there's like, that's what this is a result of. This is a result of them going, wow, they really, what happens when we just are VR people going to use this to just buy VR games, or are people going to see this and they're going to sell headsets? I don't know, but it's definitely neat. It's neat that they're responding to this.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So no, it'll be awesome to see. Hopefully, there's a lot of players that haven't gotten a chance to try these games out. Getting into them, especially the multiplayer stuff. Like, it's always nice to see games kind of get a reinvigorated community support.
Yeah.
From
remember, everybody support your local VR arcades. They need your business. If you haven't ever tried modern day virtual reality, there's tons and tons. You can Google them. They're everywhere. VR arcades, Microsoft stores. I think just about every Microsoft store, or many of them, have places you can go demo. I know even the Pro, they have the Pros available for demo. They have the regular Vive, lots of other headsets. You can try all the different ones out. So there's really no excuse now. Or ask around. Somebody out there has probably got one. You can go try and just check it out. I think it's definitely a game changer.
Yeah, no, totally. VR is a whole new world, and it's definitely something like, yeah, if you haven't tried true VR, and by that I mean like high-end VR, like PlayStation VR is like the lowest one that I would be considering, and then also like the Rift or the Vive or any of the mixed reality headsets out now from Microsoft. If you haven't tried one of those and you think you know VR just from like using a Samsung Gear VR or Google Cardboard or a device like that, like, think again. Like, there are VR headsets out there that can really do the kind of things that you were dreaming of, and yeah, there's never been a better time to jump on board right now with the Vive being as cheap as it is, only $500, which is quite a bit cheaper than before, and PCs coming down in price as far as meeting those minimum specs, and then finally just sales like this and all kinds of new content releasing. So hopefully the list, especially for those that are new, I hope we really put a lot of time into looking at what was being offered in the Steam sale to really highlight the games that are just like no-brainer, must-buy games. And for people that haven't been into the scene as long as we have, hopefully that our recommendations, bring you tons and tons and tons of awesome experiences with your families and your friends.
Yeah. And the best way to support VR is to support the devs that are making these games. And a lot of the times it's smaller teams of one person or a couple guys or women or anybody that is out there making games. But the best way to support them is to buy their games. So even if you buy a game and it's not, you say, oh, it was okay. It was all right. It may be their first game they did, and they're going to take this money that you're giving them and they're going to reinvest it in their next game, and their next game will be even better. So we do have to support that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. But just to make sure it's clear, like, those types of games, I don't think were on the list of games we mentioned.
God no. I mean, we definitely have games on here that are single dev games, but you would really never know it playing them because you're just like, this is fantastic, and they just hit it out of the park. So it's that weird cross section of smaller teams producing incredible results, and I think that sums up VR in general right now.
I totally agree. All right, so here's the part where let's make an on-air decision while we're recording. We've this episode's gone on for a while. We went pretty much, we went in depth on all those games for the spring VR sale. Yeah. So we have two games for Game Talk that we can quickly discuss. Do you think we should discuss them now for this episode, or save
Yeah,
them till?
I can wrap up mine pretty quickly.
Okay,
I
let's do it then. Let's do it. And you know what? If that's the case, let's wrap that one up quickly, and I'll save mine for a later
later.
Game Talk,
Okay.
just because, like,
Yeah.
why not? We covered a lot today, so
Yeah,
so
yeah.
so and I got a chance to check out the game that you're going to talk about too. The game that we're going to briefly discuss today is End Space. And if you want to start, because we'll get more into the details later. I didn't get a chance to play a whole lot of it because I was kind of having some issues personally with just the way the game moved. But yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about End Space?
Yeah. So In Space is an arcade, and I'm not going to use the word simulator because it's not the most perfectly accurate, but it's an arcade simulator is the best way I could describe of a space shoot 'em up. And it's not your, I guess, Eve Valkyrie kind of thing, because that's more of like you stay in one spot and just shoot a lot of things, and that's a very polished experience, and it is its own kind of thing. This, you're actually flying around in space. Its origins come from like I think if I've read correctly in its history, it was a Google Cardboard title.
Okay.
Then was a Gear VR kind of thing. So, and it feels like that. I mean, it's not that they've definitely upgraded the look. There are some visual effects in it, some
Yeah.
lighting effects that look very good, and then there's some other.
I thought
things.
it was a good looking game, honestly.
It's a good looking game, but there are some spots where if you kind of investigate it a little further or get close, like it falls apart a little bit in some of its textures and some of the, I think in some of the asteroids and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess like destructibility and of
Exactly. And
Yeah.
and the default settings for the game. So in most like space flying simulators, they've either been kind of a HOTAS joystick or a gamepad, and that's it. And that's what they've kind of focused on. And that actually, I think, is a good thing, because that's how the game is designed. You're flying a spaceship. I think when when you think of something like Elite Dangerous, which is a super realistic simulator type game with a lot of work and what they call grinding, where you're having to earn money and it's hundreds of hours you can spend in it. That is not this. If you're looking for something to kind of like in a similar vein, it is not Elite Dangerous, and it's not Eve Valkyrie. This is a space simulator game that's an arcade shoot 'em up that came from a cardboard game, and you definitely are going to recognize some of the carryovers with that. The default layout for controls is to have your gaze, or where you're looking, be where you're shooting, and you have to kind of play with that. I really had to play around with that to get kind of a feel for, well, do I want to have my missile lock be where I'm looking, and then my cannons, because you'll have like cannons, and then you'll have like a missiles you have to lock on to targets. And for me, that worked well. I like to be able to look at the target, and then that is when I could lock on missiles and shoot it. I've got space enemies and ships that are kind of coming towards you. I did find one. I went through the entire tutorial about 3 or 4 times. The first time was with the Vive controllers. And this is what the unique thing is it's one of the only ones I've ever heard of that allows you to use motion controls. So whether you have, I think, a Vive or a Rift, you can use your motion controls to control the pitch and the yaw and the rotation of the ship, and your firing and reloading and turbo boost and speed and all that stuff. But I didn't enjoy. I did a whole tutorial and I did one mission, and I didn't enjoy it with the motion controllers. I just felt it didn't. You had to hold them instead of holding them. In VTOL, where you hold the motion controller and it's as if you're holding a real stick on a plane.
Yeah.
And that feels very natural. This was not like that. You had to hold them almost horizontal to the ground to go straight. And then if you wanted to pitch down, you had to push down. And it just wasn't very comfortable, in my opinion. I would have liked to have an option to be able to hold the controller as if it was a real control stick. That was a weird choice.
I agree. No, and just to kind of butt in there, I mean, like my whole issue with it, I couldn't really play it for very long because I constantly and I don't have HOTAS like setups or anything like that. Like I don't have any joysticks. My options were using a controller or using the or using the Vive controllers, the Vive
Well, that
ones.
was the second time. So the second time I did it with the motion controllers for the tutorial and the first mission, and then I said, this is I'm not gonna, instead of stopping to play,
Mm.
I'm gonna do what I think this game was designed for, which is a controller. Now this is also on PlayStation VR, and I gotta say, I think for PlayStation VR, it's a different environment. As a console VR game.
Mm-hmm.
If this was something I can download for $10 or something, I actually think this is definitely something you should have in your library. A full priced PlayStation VR, I would say no.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, on that note, I went and then said, I'm going to grab my gamepad and play it. And for me, I enjoyed it a lot more at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think they just designed it with that in mind. The HOTAS kind of setup on it, I think, is still a lot of these games, they take a while before the HOTAS is really going to be either they don't implement it well, or it's not what they're thinking about, or there's so many of them. So I think this is really, if it's a gamepad, I think that we shouldn't kid ourselves. If you have a gamepad and this game interests you, I think you're fine. I personally don't think, but I've seen reviews on people online saying they love the motion controls, but it's to each his own.
Yeah.
But for me, in my opinion, the gamepad was the way to go. Now, it is a space shooter. You said you had some discomfort with motion sickness, and I could definitely see that.
Yeah, and I think my issue, I mean, maybe I should have given it more of a try with my controller, because like I think I was just having issues. Like I was trying to figure out a game style that worked for me. So I was going back and forth between trying to tweak the motion control.
Option.
Like
the
they,
options, yeah.
like you said, like you can, by default, you can kind of pick whether you want your head to affect either the shooting or the motion. So like initially I tried the motion, and oh my gosh, that was terrible. Like literally it wanted me to like sit forward in such an uncomfortable way in order to make the vehicle fly straight. And if you were sitting in even like a somewhat normal position, it was just spinning in circles. Like it was really bad. And so that was instantly like a bad experience. And so then I switched it, and when I switched it to, like you were saying, where I had my gaze effect where I was shooting, and then I controlled the movement of the ship with the Vive wands, it was better, but it was still like the movement was super jerky and very I don't know if it was too sensitive or if it wasn't accurate enough.
There's no smoothment. There's no smoothing of the movement. So it's exact that sub-millimeter precision of the motion controls.
Which doesn't work.
Just even the slightest little move and it's gonna move the ship. I feel like for the dev, one, if they were to, and it's a single dev, it's not like it's a team.
Yeah.
If they were to offer the option of having the controls more of a VTOL style, where the stick is held in a way that just like you would, where there's the left is your throttle, the right is your stick, or whatever, and as you move them, that's how it's. And with some kind of smoothing technique, I think that would enhance it greatly, because then I could fly it like I would fly a regular, spaceship or airplane. And then two, when I'm going into the settings, it's hard to really kind of, if it's possible, they should have kind of a simulated, like you sit down in the cockpit, you click a button on the menu that says, this is what I want, and then it lets you like see what that's like.
Yeah, maybe. I agree. No, because that was the other frustrating part, was
because I had to go back in.
Yeah,
go back in the tutorial, try it out. Oh, this sucks. Come back
and forth, and
start again.
Yeah,
over and over again. I probably did that 15 times.
Yeah,
back and forth.
And just to be clear, for like listeners, like you'd have to like shut the game down essentially to get back into the menu system.
You start up the tutorial, you go try it out, you come back, and there's no in-game being able to flip it. If there was even an in-game option, you hit pause and then flip it to something else and go, okay, is this okay? Because it is a really specific thing. The other thing too I read on is the size of the cockpit and how much is blocking your view is actually a good thing for for motion sickness. They say
Yeah.
the more cockpit that's stationary,
Yeah.
the less the motion. And Wipeout VR, I think, is a good example of that. It kind of blocks in the sides
Yeah.
and gives you just the front. And they say that the instances of motion sickness are very,
No,
very
that makes sense.
low.
Because if you think
It's
about
low,
it too, that's like
grounded.
that's kind of a lot like like they have comfort settings for a lot of different locomotion style
Yeah.
games where like when you move, all of a sudden all the periphery vision just kind of focuses in on just the middle, and it tries to
So
limit the amount that you're seeing. And in a way, the cockpit kind of does that in a more natural way all the time. So no, I like my kind of gut feeling with End Space is that it was a game I really wanted to like, and I think with more time, when the developer is able to kind of like fix the menu systems and fix issues with the control methods. Like once those things are in place, like the input is kind of dialed in, I think it could be. It's probably a really cool game. So like that's
well,
why. So I'm kind of
yeah.
tentative on it right now. Like as it is, I personally couldn't recommend it just because I like was having such a difficult time playing it. But I see the potential. Like I see the underlying game. If I were to figure out like a control method that worked for me, I can see
Yeah.
it being like it being fun and it being a really cool like experience. Like again, like you were saying, like it's not gonna like the asteroids aren't destructible. Like there are things here and there that remind you that it probably had its origins on kind of a lower end system. But at the same time, I do think it looks great. Like for a VR title, I think it has a very clean visuals, and that's one of the highest compliments I can give to a game in VR because it doesn't distract from what you're doing. Like in these headsets, especially with the lower resolutions, sometimes developers put way too much on the screen in front of you, and it just muddies up what you're seeing and what you're trying to do. And like you can tell that this was very like it was designed with purpose, and I think it has some like a really smart person working on it, and I think it's just a matter of getting all those things dialed in for it to be a good Vive experience.
Well, his influence, he comes from good influences because he's I think mentioned in an interview or said somewhere that his influences were TIE Fighter, which is probably one of the best PC games ever made. I mean, there's just that's good stock and influence to come
People
from.
want TIE Fighter in VR, I can tell you.
Exactly. Exactly. So it's one to watch. It's definitely one to look out for and really look at. And I think it does have a lot in the good column, and it has a lot that we have to look for in the future. So, I enjoyed it, but at the same time, I'm not saying for everyone to rush out now, but to keep their eye definitely on In Space and keep looking at those updates and see what's going on and get involved. If it's something you're even remotely interested in, get on that Steam community forum board and start talking about it and watching the videos. And, if you bought it in the past and maybe returned it, give feedback, because I know this dev I've heard about, he's very, very communicative and welcoming for input, because this is a big transition to go from a mobile environment, a cardboard gear environment, to come to the PC. If you had never told me, I would have been kind of surprised. The gaze to move and to shoot thing, that is always kind of a dead giveaway for games that come from mobile over. That's always, they can do that, but it does kind of work when it's the lock on with missiles and movement, things like that.
I've seen examples of some of what it's trying to do work, but it has to be dialed back. It needs to be it's really hard to do. Like I feel like just in general, like getting motion right in VR is really, really difficult, and porting a game over from one, like it's bringing something from a Gear VR over to the Rift and Vive realm is not like a walk in the park. Like those systems are very different from each other, and they're going to like it's like you see people that released Vive games bringing them out on Oculus and vice versa, and that's super way more. That's a lot easier to do. This is like from the ground up. It's a different type of thing. And
I would say,
and I do think the game. Oh no, you're fine. Like I was just gonna say that I do think that I think if they can dial in the input stuff and fix the controls to where it works well in the Vive, that the game itself could be very, very good. Like
I would one up that and say you fix those issues and you clean and polish like anybody does, and you put in a mission editor. Okay, forget. Everyone always yells multiplayer. No. Put a mission editor in and fix those little issues to where it's kind of a tight package to where somebody with a HOTAS or somebody with a gamepad and can get their controls without having to go in. Fix a couple of the little glitches, like when in the tutorial it will skip past, even if you don't finish one section of it, it'll keep going and things like that.
Yeah.
So those are little nitpicky kind of polished things. Fix those issues and add a game editor, and then let people out in the community create their own missions, because just let the community do that.
Add value to.
Holy,
Yeah.
I that right there, this is a $20 or $30 insta buy. I think in that format, and like I said, it's a new game. It just came out. So that's good. I'm happy. Are you happy?
Yeah, no, totally. It's a game I'm definitely gonna keep. Like it's something that I'm not gonna play right now, but it's something I'm gonna keep my eye on.
Yeah.
And when I hear that it's shaping up and that, like, hey, we made big changes to the control methods and this and that, I'm gonna jump back in, because I was super excited about it. I was a little let down when I tried playing it, but I'm still like,
I'm not throwing away. It's definitely not the title that you get in. You're like, oh, this is this is like, I'm never touching this again. No, it's definitely something you can see some future in.
Yep.
Last little note from me.
Yeah.
If you're a brown coat like me, if you liked Firefly, if you like the movie Serenity, and you like that whole universe, there's a guy out there that has ported over and completely redone his Dev Kit 2 experience that he had from years ago to a thing, Serenity VR. It's on itch.io. You just got to search for it. I think it's called Serenity VR. It's like a gigabyte, so it's not small, it's not huge, and it's basically you get to go around the ship. So if you're a fan like I am out there and you're a fellow browncoat, definitely download this. Send them an email, say thank you, and any dev. If you've got 10 minutes to kill and you want to find the dev's email, go on Discord. Every one of these games has got a Discord channel you can go on to and message them directly, or get in a room full of people that are also like the game and throw ideas out. And if you want to have any influence on the path of an early access game or a game that's being worked on, Discord is where it's happening. So you have to go there and just talk about the game, because that's what they want to hear. They want to hear feedback. Now, if you go on there just to tell them they suck, it may not be the best thing ever, but if you want to go on there,
constructive feedback,
constructive feedback, and it doesn't have to always be positive. Like, I don't have all positive things about InSpace. I definitely have things that are. I try to do it in a positive way, but there are definitely pros and cons to the game. But it's an early, it's a game that just came out. So, like I said, Serenity VR. It's on itch.io. Check it out, and while you're there, check out a lot of other really cool stuff like Compound and other stuff, because there's a lot of really neat, most of it free, games over there.
All right, awesome. So, I think that was a pretty good episode. We got our hands dirty with the Steam sale. Hopefully, gave a lot of great feedback there. Got to talk about InSpace, and with that, I think we'll call it an episode. So, thank you all for listening as always, and take care. We'll have another episode up later next week.
Yeah, and one last thing, guys, please rate and review on iTunes. That is how they rank podcasts and in general. So please, thank you for listening, and we appreciate all your feedback and all your comments. But please rate and give us a review, good or bad, either way.
All right, take care, and we'll see you guys next week.